Today we're going to talk about a little known but interesting genus of plants called Lindera, and there may be a dozen or 15 species growing here at Caerhays. One of the reasons they're not terribly well known is that quite a few of the species have only recently been discovered in Taiwan and northern Vietnam and in China, and they're really quite difficult to propagate except from seed. And the problem with growing them from seed is that you don't know whether you've got a male or female. And Lindera are dioecious, so you need a separate male and a female. But of course, if they're grown from seed, until they're mature, you don't know whether you've got a male or a female, until you see whether or not some of them set seed. And of course, in reality, you should probably plant 2 or 3 plants together so that you will have a male and female and you will get seed. But a lot of people have thought that Lindera were really primarily autumn colour plants, and today I want to try and show you how they're actually very much better than that. And this is Lindera angustifolia, which is nearly an evergreen in our climate, but we had a bit of a cold, real cold in late January, so it did shed its leaves. You can see these quite attractive yellow flowers coming out in abundance, and the extraordinary thing about this tree is that in 4 years it has grown up to about 20 feet. It has the most gorgeous greenish bark on its trunk with sort of mottled spotting, and the new growth has this gorgeous orangey red appearance, but only in immaturity. So this is a very vigorous tree. It's multi-stemmed. It's going to be something that will stand up in the landscape. And as far as we know, we haven't had any seeds on this one yet. So although we've got one other in the garden, we have a nasty feeling both of them may be males. So here we've got another tree species of Lindera. And this is Lindera erythrocarpa, and you can see it just coming into flower, towering above this rhododendron. It's a rather greenish yellow flower when you look close up at it, and when the flowers are full out, the leaves will have appeared as well. And this Lindera erythrocarpa does have good autumn colour. It's very much a deciduous tree. No particular scent, but it is there is quite a show developing from it, and it's of great interest to people who are interested in rare plants. This is Lindera sericea. The flowers are just going over, having been bashed around a bit in the extremely heavy rain we had yesterday. But you can see that this is a shrubby tree with actually probably more of a shrub than a tree, with very upright growth. This lovely green bark with sort of spotting on it. Quite a tender plant, and one which has excellent yellow autumn growth. But you can see what a Lindera flower looks like here, and once you recognise a Lindera flower, you'll get them anywhere. And here we've got another species of Lindera. This one is a species from Japan, and is called Lindera triloba, a name it gets from its 3-lobed leaves, which obviously are not out as yet. The flowers are rather smaller than in the other species which we've seen, but they are very distinct. And this one has not black fruits, but greenish fruits. But again, I have to tell you, our plant is a male, or it isn't big enough yet to produce any fruits. It's really quite pretty in its own right, but I think this is more of an autumn colour species. It's absolutely stunning yellow in the autumn, and quite late into the autumn, maybe into November. But at this time of the year, it's a very vigorous upright shrub, multi-stemmed, not really a tree. So this is a much smaller growing Lindera, and the first one that we've looked at that's evergreen. This is Lindera aggregata, and it comes from Taiwan, the Philippines and into Vietnam, as well as coming from China as itself. To look at it, you wouldn't necessarily recognize it as a Lindera, but when you look at its tiny flowers, they're obviously Lindera-like. And this probably has taken 20 years to achieve this size. It's quite tender. It gets bits of dieback, as you can see here, in our winters. And it's pretty borderline as to whether we can grow it. But this plant does set the most wonderful set of blackberries. We originally grew these at Burncoos Nurseries from seed, and they came up like mustard and cress, and we've got quite a few plants dotted around, so they clearly do cross-fertilize themselves in the spring, and we have got berries. But one that's quite borderline and needs a very, very sheltered environment. So finally we come to Lindera lancea, which is a new one to Caerhays. We've only planted this about a year and a half ago, and this is the first time it's flowered with us. As you can see, it's flowering as the leaves emerge. It's not a very heavy flowerer, and it looks to be shrub-like with multiple stems, but the flowers are very, very distinct and Lindera-like, as is the coloration on the stem. So once you've seen a Lindera flower, it should be recognizable. They're an interesting little genus, and there are quite a few more which we hopefully will be able to show people at the Cornwall Garden Society Spring Show over at Wadebridge in a fortnight's time.